We're gonna make some oatmeal milk and honey soap. So right here I am tearing my scale and putting my stainless steel bowl, and we are going to add the milk cubes to the bowl. I freeze my milk so that it doesn't scorch when I add the lye. Here I'm tearing it out again, and we are getting ready to add the lye into the milk cubes. You want to make sure that you wear gloves while doing this because lye is caustic. Here I am pouring the lye into the milk cubes, and I don't use all 3 containers, but I do use most of what I have sitting there. You want to slowly pour it in, and then I like to tap it to make sure that I get everything out, especially when I am using a whole jar. These are about 16 ounces each. And then after pouring the lye in, I want to put those off to the side, and then I want to start stirring slowly. And while I'm stirring, I want to kind of move that mixture around. I don't want to splash up anything or flick any of the lye particles out of the bowl. So you want to be very careful here. So it's not to the stirring consistency yet, it's still pretty hard. We'll fast forward this a little bit because it is a process. And while you mix in the lye granules in with the milk cubes, it starts to melt it down. And this takes about 5 to 10 minutes, just depending on how big the batch is. And as you can see, we're getting a nice mixing consistency here. It's a lot easier to mix it without having to stop and reposition the spatula. You do want to do this slowly so that you don't splash up any of that lye mixture onto you or the table. You just want to be slow and safe with it. And just keep stirring just to make sure that everything is incorporated. You want all of those milk cubes to melt down. And like I said, this takes about 5 to 10 minutes to get everything melted and dissolved. And I do use sodium lactate in all of my soaps, and this helps the hardness of it and the easiness of unmolding when you go to unmold it out of the silicone mold. And for this recipe, it is going to be 1 teaspoon per pound of oils, and I have a total of a little over 10 pounds of oil, so I want to do 10 teaspoons. And I buy my sodium lactate from Crafter's Choice, which is Wholesale Supplies Plus. And then after you get all of that in, you want to go ahead and mix it up slowly into your lye mixture to make sure that is now incorporated. And then I like to take my temperatures just to make sure that we're at a good soaping temp. So we're at 96 degrees for the lye mixture. And here I have my additives, kaolin clay and colloidal oats, and I am blending that into my oils. These are my oils and butters. Here is my fragrance oil. I am using Brambleberry's Oatmeal Milk and Honey fragrance oil. And I am just putting the rest of that bottle in, which I did measure it out, and it is well under the usage rate of that fragrance oil. And just to add a little bit of a vanilla scent, I just do a little bit of the Brambleberry's Vanilla Select. And then I like to get that all mixed up and incorporate it into the oils before I add my lye. I just love how creamy it looks. And the scent smells so delightful. And my oils have come down in heat, but they are still within 10 degrees of each other. And we are soaping a little hotter than I usually like to, but that is okay. This is a pretty well-behaved fragrance, so I don't suspect any issues. So dumping in my lye mixture here, and then we have just a little bit of some saponified lye and milk fat left over in there. So I left that inside of the bowl just so we have some nice smooth bars. And you want to mix here until you get to a emulsion, which is basically everything is emulsified together, nothing is separating. So when you stop stirring, you check to see if there's any separation of oils from the lye mixture, which there isn't here, so we are almost done. And I don't bring this to a trace just yet, but I do want to make sure that everything is incorporated because you don't want any separating. And for the most part, I just kind of stir it around. I'm not entirely using the motor on my stick blender. I just want to make sure that everything is mixed up. And then I want to wipe off everything that I possibly can off the stick blender, and I'll come back to that a little later when we go ahead and add color, which is just going to be titanium dioxide. We want to keep this a nice creamy soap. So here I'm pouring off into this smaller container. I didn't show it, but I did add a little bit of titanium dioxide to the big container before I poured it off. And this is just going to give a slight difference in color variation when I go to pour it into the mold. So then I do have a little bit of titanium dioxide left over that you'll see me pour in now. And I mix that in just a little bit, bring over the stick blender and give it a good buzz. And you can see that little bit of change in color there. It's not a lot, it's just a little bit, just makes it a little bit creamier looking. And then I like to try and scrape off everything that I possibly can. Makes it easier for when it comes time to clean. So here I am done with the stick blender. I go ahead and pull it apart and toss that into my lye container bucket. Working with a really small table for a pretty big batch. Here I didn't show it, but I did pour the smaller bucket into the larger bucket. And that is basically just a in the pot swirl, and then I poured the big bucket into my mold. And then here I'm trying to tap it down just to get some air bubbles out to make sure that everything is nice and smooth. And pushing over the mold into frame there so everybody can see a little bit better. And then I had a little bit of that darker color saved. I thought that maybe I could do a little bit of a color variation on top, but when I go to texture the top coming soon, you can't tell that there's any color variation. And then I just scrape off the excess into my bigger pot. And then I do have an extra small mold that I will dump the remaining soap batter into. And I did not get this in frame at all, but I pretty much just dump it into that smaller mold and scrape out the container. I'm trying to scrape out as much of that soap batter as I possibly can. Again, just for easy cleanup, and I don't want to waste any of it. And here I am texturing the top. And as you can see, that color variation totally went away. You can't see that I put a different color on top, but that's okay. Here I'm going to grab my bag of oatmeal and I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle the oatmeal on the tops of each of these soap molds. And then once I am done with putting the oatmeal on the tops, I will spritz with alcohol, which I do not show here, but I do it just to keep the soda ash down a little bit. And then we are all done. I'll bring it in for a close-up. Doesn't it look so nice and creamy and delicious? Let me know if you like this video. If you do, I will do a whole series of soap making videos. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.